Okay, let's set the scene. We're in Florence, 1537. This is a city of just breathtaking art, but also savage, cutthroat politics. And right in the middle of it all, we've got a brilliant young architect at the absolute peak of his game, Giuliano Vasari. But his story, his legacy, isn't going to be defined by what he builds, but by what he's asked to betray. And this is that moment, one of those moments that just splits a life in two. Vasari is, quite literally, on top of the world. He's looking out over his latest masterpiece. But a single choice is about to be demanded of him, and it's a choice that's going to shatter everything into a before and an after. So that's a real question here, isn't it? How does a man whose whole life is about creating, about building things up, get pushed so far that he decides to help tear something down? It's a story about art, loyalty, and that impossible choice between your conscience and your career. It all starts, as so many things did back then, in Florence, with a job offer, a commission. But this isn't just from any old patron. No, this comes from Vasari's oldest and closest friend, who also just happens to be the powerful, absolute ruler of the city, Duke Alessandro de Medici. So what's the job? The Duke wants a fortress, but here's the twist. This isn't a fortress to protect Florence from its enemies. It's a citadel, meant to be built on this beautiful, beloved hill overlooking the entire city. It's basically a giant boot, designed to be planted permanently on Florence's throat, to crush any dissent from its own people. To really get the Duke, you just have to understand his philosophy. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. So he wasn't asking his friend for a favor. He was demanding a tool, an instrument of control. He genuinely believed that ruling through fear was the only way to guarantee peace. But for Vasari, the man asked to build the very machine of that fear, well, it's an impossible spot to be in. And here's the choice laid out plain and simple. On one side, serve your friend, your Duke. The reward? Everything an artist could possibly want. Fame, more wealth than you can imagine, the commission of a lifetime. And on the other side, serve your conscience. The price for that? Total, absolute ruin. So what does he do? He refuses. In this incredible act of defiance, Vasari looks his most powerful friend right in the eye and just says, no. He chooses his city over his career, his principles over his patron. And with that single word, the after part of his life begins. Now, you just don't make a choice like that and walk away. A decision like that does not go unpunished. The Duke, who was once his friend, becomes his sworn enemy. And the consequences are immediate, they are total, and they are absolutely devastating. Just look how fast his world completely unravels. 1 week after he says no, boom, all his contracts are canceled. A month later, his workshop is forced to shut its doors. By June, he's a total outcast, completely ruined. And this kind of total destruction, it leaves you with nothing to lose. It makes you vulnerable and open to a very different kind of offer. One that's not about building, but about plotting. With absolutely nothing left, Vasari gets pulled into a secret Republican movement. This is a huge shift for him, right? He goes from being a man of passive refusal, just saying no to tyranny, to a man of active resistance, joining a plot to overthrow the very same Duke who destroyed his life. So who's in this little group? Well, it's led by a wealthy banker, Filippo Strozzi. And their weapon? Get this, it's the ultimate insider, the Duke's own cousin, Lorenzino. The plan is as simple as it is audacious. Kill the tyrant, grab control of the city, and bring back the Florentine Republic. But the conspirators have this massive strategic problem. How in the world do you take over a city when the Duke's entire army is locked up safe and sound inside an impregnable fortress? And really, how could a broke, unemployed architect possibly be the key to solving that? And here is the terrible, beautiful irony of it all. The very fortress they need to take down is the Fortezza da Basso, Vasari's own masterpiece that he designed himself. To save his city, the proud creator has to become the tormented destroyer. He knows every strength, every secret, every single weakness of his own creation, because he's the one who put them there. Vasari's intimate knowledge suddenly becomes the absolute key to the entire plan. So, step 1, Lorenzino assassinates the Duke. Step 2, and this is Vasari's critical part, they use a secret gate that only he knows about to get their forces inside the fortress. Once the garrison is neutralized, they can seize the city and bring back the Republic. The entire revolution hinges on an architect betraying his own creation. So,
The day comes. The conspirators put their plan into motion. Lorenzino, the Duke's trusted cousin, makes his move, and the fate of Florence is hanging right in the balance.
And you know what? Step 1 is a success. Lorenzino lures Alessandro into a trap, and he kills him. The tyrant is dead. For just a fleeting moment, it feels like the rebellion has won, that their crazy, impossible plan has actually worked. But in the chaos that follows, the Republicans hesitate. They don't seize the fortress, they don't rally the people, and that power vacuum gets filled fast. Another Medici, Cosimo, steps right in and is quickly named the new duke. The assassination, in the end, achieved nothing. They just swapped one tyrant for another. The words of the conspiracy's leader, Filippo Strozzi, they just say it all. The sacrifice, the meticulous planning, the betrayal, the murder, it was all for nothing. The Medici are still in power, and that dream of a restored republic is dead. So what happens to the conspirators? And what becomes of Vasari's impossible choice? Let's take a look at the aftermath, because, the true meaning of a legacy, it isn't always found in the immediate outcome.
Well, the fates of the main players couldn't be more different. Strozzi, the leader, he dies in prison. Lorenzino, the assassin, is hunted all across Europe and eventually killed. But Vasari, the architect, he survives. He lives.
11. For 11 years after that failed coup, Vasari lives in exile. He's done with plots, done with politics. He puts down the dagger and he picks up his tools again. Instead of tearing things down, he goes back to what he truly knows. He builds. And, crucially, he teaches. And this, right here, becomes his true legacy. Okay, so he failed to remake Florence through violence, but in exile, he actually succeeded in remaking architecture through his principles. He taught a whole new generation of builders, including the legendary Andrea Palladio, that what you build and for whom you build it, it matters, that art has a moral weight. And that leaves us with one last big question. Vasari's choice led to his personal ruin and a spectacular political failure. By any practical measure, you'd have to call it a disaster. But that very same choice upheld a principle that he then passed down through his teaching, influencing generations. So what's the true legacy of a choice? Is it the outcome it creates or the principle it upholds?